I swear, this guy is trying to kill me through stress. Another one. Another movie game. Another licensed game based on an animated movie. Well, joke's on him because I watched this movie after I played the game. And it isn't a bad film, but I wouldn't say it's one of Sony's best. It's harmless enough without the implied violence, poop, jokes, and game hunting. It's just not a film I would see twice. Also, did you know there's 3 of these films now? Crazy. Unlike most licensed games, there are many ports of this. PS2, Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation Portable, Wii, Xbox 360, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, and PC. You can tell Sony really wanted to make this a hit, but after Despicable Me and knowing how many developers out there love to cram in motion controls, I'm not taking any chances.
So the game begins and holy killer with fire! What is that thing? I haven't even gotten to the main story yet, and we're faced with a 50-foot stuffed animal that belongs in Silent Hill. So after that nightmare, the story focuses on a city bear named Boog, who after meeting a would-be mantelpiece buck named Elliot, gets into trouble and is sent to the forest to live out as a wild bear. Soon we learn that it's going to be open season very soon, so Boog must learn how to be the bear he was born to be, and save the forest animals from all the hunters. It is a very basic man versus nature premise, but the bulk of the story is about Boog as it is literally told from his perspective. Every single cutscene is displayed from Boog's, on the rare occasion, Elliot's point of view, which is not that big of a deal because none of the characters' lips sync with the voices. But how does this line up with the movie itself? It's close. Not a scene-for-scene copy, but a majority of the characters and situations do carry over and expanded upon to make it more game-like. Speaking of which, let's move on to that. At first, I thought this would be a run-of-the-mill simple platformer, because they are almost certainly always are. But then it became a bunch of busy work with some minigames thrown in. Don't get me wrong, minigames have these general gameplay loops, but they work in tandem with other gameplay loops or gimmicks to make it seem second nature of part of something bigger. Take Metroid Prime for example. The key point to that is exploration, but it works in parallel with shooting and defeating enemies, as well as researching the creatures and the world around you. Not to mention the upgrades you collect along the way expand those main gameplay loops, plus with a greater arsenal means greater threats, so the difficulty increases as you still continue to explore and kill your enemies and research them. Open Season just has you walk from one place to the next, throw around Elliot to collect out-of-reach badges which are used for unlockables, but we'll get to that, pick stuff up and drop it back to where you were asked to do so in the first place, and so on, and so on. It's a while before some actual gameplay happens when you begin scaring off hunters, and suddenly it becomes a poor man's Metal Gear, but with bears. Hold down a button to hide in plain sight, and hold another button to give them a big scare. But this gimmick gets really boring, really repetitive, really fast, as it becomes the sole thing you do before the next gimmick, which is playing as Elliot. He can't scare the hunters, but he can lure them into traps, plus he has the added benefit of being able to actually jump. Badly. I can never gauge the height or distance when platforming because he feels way too heavy. Luckily, there's no penalty for failing, just happen to restart the jumping section all over again. But this little niggle gets annoying when you're trying to— God damn it! There are other gimmicks such as smelling and scavenging, but it's not really necessary. You do it maybe twice in the whole game and the game just forgets about it. Later on, you enlist the help of other forest animals, which can be used to make scaring off hunters a lot easier, such as rabbits, skunks, and squirrels. But what about those minigames I mentioned earlier? Well, there's races, being dragged down a path when you have to avoid obstacles, and there's a minecart that requires quick responses from the player. These are actually fun. I am not kidding. Those minigames are the most fun I've had with this game. The same cannot be said for what I would call the turret stages. I hate these. Luckily there's only 3 in the whole game, but there's no target reticle, hunters just appear out of nowhere, and there's no indication that you are failing your objective until it's too late. But there's one other gimmick that is used infrequently until the very end, and it's the reason why all the cutscenes are from the character's point of view. You can nod or shake your head to agree or disagree to do a task. I thought I was safe from motion controls. I expected this in the Wii port, but yeah, let's jiggle the analog stick to agree or disagree in order to play the rest of the game.
Whose idea was this? No, that's a serious question. Whose idea was it to move the camera yes or no in order to accept or decline a mission? Why can't I select yes and no in a normal, simple menu? But no, we are gonna be innovative. We are gonna make sure that the players involved in the game's world, they are Boog, they are Elliot. Yes, no, why?
What? Oh, right. Graphics. Well, there's a forest, and more forest, forest at sunset. It's so boring to look at. I can't tell you how happy I was just to see some freaking snow, as brief as it was. It's not that the game looks bad, it's just average and uninspired. Not helped by the fact that the color scheme seems to have taken more of a washed out realistic look. Not to mention, you end up playing the same levels later on, so the repeating nature of the same forest begins to wane. That said, the character models aren't too bad, to be honest. They look and animate like they do in the film. And I was impressed on how Boog moves as you control him. It's like a real bear. I have to give a thumbs up to the voice cast because they sound pretty close to the all-star cast of the film. Speaking of which, the only returning voice actor is the man himself, Patrick Warburton, as the head Buck Ian.
Oh, I'm good.
Plus, I have to give the game another voice acting point for having Nika Futterman as a skunk.
Salvation! Finally!
Speaking of audio, there's the case of the music. Half of the soundtrack is vocals, which I don't think can be played for this review, and the rest is there, I guess. The chasing and scaring themes get, say it with me now, repetitive over time. To be honest, I started playing a podcast during the second half of the game just for some mental engagement. I never want to hear a screaming huntsman ever again. The design of the game is not great. The levels follow a linear path to the next, and the various tasks you have to complete are so infrequent, they might as well just take out the walk-in sections altogether. Just have it be a bunch of minigames connected through screenshot cutscenes that relate in some way to the plot of the movie. But this is what we're stuck with. And with the infrequent tasks and minigames, there's also infrequent loading times. Thankfully, they're not as bad as another game I won't mention. Because of this, I am never sure when the end of a stage is. You would think it would be after its loading screen and when the next game starts. More than once I had to replay a part of the stage because I thought it saved in between the loading screens, before I was called away for an errand or had to sleep. I don't get a lot of free time these days. But what about those badges I teased you with earlier? As a means of exploration and completionism, yes, that's a term I'm sticking with, several badges are scattered throughout the levels and minigames. These badges give you points, and collecting all of them just means you found them. Because you see, it's the points that matter. If you don't accumulate the exact number of points the game wants you to collect, you don't get the achievement for finishing that stage. That is bull. I found your damn badges, just give me something for finding them. But no, it's the points that matter, so get as many as you can and don't mess up on those big scares. The reason why you get all these points is to spend them on upgrades. More health, bigger scares, a better quick throw, usual stuff. The problem I have with this upgrade system is that I didn't know it existed until I finished the game. I am dead serious. Not once did I use any upgrade in this game. I got them after finishing the game because unlocking all your upgrades gives you an achievement. It's a good thing too. I'm not a completionist because I definitely would have gone back and found all those badges just to have another completed game in my Xbox game library. Open Season on the Xbox 360 is a very simple and bog standard platform game. Even though some of the gameplay elements such as scaring hunters is unique, and some of the minigames offer a small snippet of fun, it is an otherwise boring, repetitive, and unoffensive game. Compared to Despicable Me, I was a lot more engaged to see this through to the end. So there is something to take away from all this. Like I said earlier, I finished the game without any upgrades, so even to a child this is an easy game. I can only imagine what the other parts are like if the 360 version is this easy. I rate this game 3.5 out of 10.
You know what's funny? If I continue to do this, I might end up reviewing every single Sony animation film out there. Actually, no, it's a bad idea. No, please don't!